Konnichiwa, metalheads. Welcome to another episode of Metal Academics, this time featuring...
Unlucky Morpheus.
All right, Unlucky Morpheus. I know we had quite a few requests for this after our episode on Galnerius.
Exactly.
Which was an awesome band, so I'm curious to hear what else we have coming out of Japan.
Japan. I could transform half of this channel in Japanese metal bands because, again, I've discovered them and loved them quite a lot, and Unlucky Morpheus is no exception. And there's actually an interesting connection directly to Galnerius, namely the drummer is the same guy, Fumiya. So we will see and recognize a familiar face already, we can say. But Fumiya, even though amazing, is not the main motor behind Unlucky Morpheus, but their main lead singer, female lead singer, is.
Yes, because I know as we scout for YouTube videos, we use the same account, and so the recommendations fill up, and I've seen all these Japanese chicks popping up on the channel.
Well, I wish I were anywhere close to Fuki's musical talent. She is fantastic. She has been a figure in power metal in Japan for some time. Very insightful followers may know her from Lightbringer. That was a true power metal Japanese band that doesn't exist anymore, I believe. She also played and continues to play in an all-girl band called Doll's Box. That's also metal, mixed genre. And she is a founding member, together with Shirin, of Unlucky Morpheus. So she's definitely at the center of Japanese metal, and she has the voice to earn that spot. And you will hear in a second. You haven't heard them before. Okay, so it's like a true first reaction. So Fuki definitely is one of the stars because of her musical talent, her voice. She's also the one who writes the lyrics, and she's the one who does the costumes and takes care of the visual arrangements of the band. But the main composer is the co-founder, whose name is Shirin, and he does all the arrangements, writes the music, and plays the keyboards and the guitar. Also, another musical.
But not at the same time.
You will see. Again, there's a lot of things to know about Japan, and I know I'm going to be a little bit long, but I don't think this is a well-known fact, and I think they deserve more exposure simply in the West. Except for a couple of bands, nobody knows anything about Japanese metal. Also because their producers keep Japanese bands to Japan, don't make a huge effort to market them outside Japan. And what is interesting about this band is that it started as a what they call, and again, my Japanese is terrible, so Yoko, please, forgive me, is like toho arrangements, which means fans who make arrangements to video games, in particular this Toho project that is a shoot 'em all type of game. And so Shirin and Fuki love this game and made music, arranged the music as a background to this computer game.
It's a different approach to the Twitch live streaming video games.
These are like fans. It's also something called dojin. And it's been translated as indie, like non-signed indie music, but also fan-based music, like as people would be fans of Twilight and write novels that continue the story of Twilight, the vampire story, if you're familiar with. The same in Japan happens with music, with literature, with all sorts of things. A long tradition where if you love someone, like an artist, you're inspired to reproduce or contribute to that body of work. So dojin. And
it's so, like the subreddits in the West.
Yeah, I think it's kind of that kind of culture. Like you want to affiliate yourself and support a movement. And these guys sometimes presented themselves as people who love manga and anime and computer games and seafood. And the reason why there's a connection with seafood, and after this we'll get into the music, is that in Japan nobody calls them Unlucky Morpheus, but they call him Ankimo, which is like Ankimo, Unlucky Morpheus, Ankimo. And there's a play on words because Ankimo, let me show it to you guys. You will see it in a second, is an actual dish. Is this pretty thing, which is called the foie gras of the sea, is fish liver, fattened fish liver paste. A very Japanese rarity. You don't see this outside Japan much.
Looks like one of those Bavarian brats.
Probably you need to try it to tell. And again, obviously, I've never been to Japan, so I've never even come in the vicinity of Ankimo, the food. But they love seafood and they like their shortcut, Ankimo, the band, sending us into the direction of Ankimo, the foie gras of the sea. So that's Unlucky Morpheus, guys who love manga, anime, video games, and metal music. Virtuoso. So let's start with one of the songs that kind of is probably their most famous. It's called Black Pentagram. We will see a live version of it, and is the one that comes from a limited edition EP from 2016, later introduced on a full play album, but it's the original one from 2016, that version that we're going to listen to. And while we're listening to this live version, I want you to pay attention to Jill, who plays the violin. So, more talk after Black Pentagram. So this is from a DVD. And again, it's a very common practice also in Japan to not release always new albums, but to release DVDs with their best concerts.
Yeah,
so
crowd was definitely into it, huh?
Definitely, it's in Japan. Again, I don't think they've been much outside Japan. Maybe once or twice, but haven't been touring majorly, unfortunately. But definitely play a lot of shows in Japan.
Yeah, one thing, quick note for future reference is we should do do best violin solos in metal, like a battle.
How cool is that violin playing it out with the guitar?
Cool. I like her stage presence as well.
Yeah.
You know, and then headbanging and all that. What the guy with the white jacket?
Yeah, that's Shirin.
He's kind of like the MC.
Yeah.
Is he singing or is he just roaming around?
He's harsh vocals.
Okay.
And he's playing the keys.
Gotcha.
In this.
Seemed like he was.
He's a composer, right? He's in a sense the guy who coordinates everyone.
Yeah, he seemed kind of like the hype man, just rolling around. I didn't hear so much of him apart from the beginning and end.
But so that's Shirin. That's the arrangement also come with him from him. So. Black Pentagram, probably the most known song from the band. And again, in this song, you hear a combination of Fuki's clean vocals and Shirin's harsh vocals, but it's not always like this. They cover a lot of genres, a lot of varieties. So that was 2016. They are very good at producing lots of music and at bringing stuff from the concerts back into the studio, and so kind of in a dialogue with their fans. Like, what do they like? What got good response? Sometimes re-recording old songs and so on. So they're very dynamic. And they released an album in 2000, Change of Generation, 2018. Change of generation, and it doesn't have any meaning. I don't think there's any change really. It basically showcases the variety of genres that the band covers. Previously, they've even done a fusion with jazz, so metal and jazz, and they're all.
See that with some string instruments.
Yeah, exactly. They're all obviously classically trained, as Japanese tend to be, so they can read music and love music across genres. So, from this Change of Generation album, we will listen to their opener.
Okay.
And their official video. And again, let me double check exactly what is the name of this song.
Knight of Sword.
Knight of Sword. That's it. Knight of Sword. Prepare for lots of guitars.
Not Sword of Knight, but Knight of Sword.
Knight of Sword. Change of Generation album. Sword.
Ooh.
Knight of Sword
Yeah.
kills it. Kills.
Yeah. Killer guitar solo.
These dudes are amazing, and dudettes. Dudes and dudettes.
Yeah,
slay.
it's difficult to place, like kind of what, maybe because it's sung in Japanese, but also like the whole arrangement
different, right?
Yeah,
Like,
you can't really. It doesn't really sound like anything I've heard before.
No, it's amazing, and I love it. But also, I have a hard time classifying it. I think. And again, there's almost no reviews. Not that I really think it's important to have reviews, but it just shows the low visibility. If you go on Encyclopedia Metallum, if you Google around, just nothing. Nobody talks outside the Japanese circle. And again, regrettably, I do not speak Japanese nor write Japanese to enter those environments. But they're good.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think definitely there needs to be more touring, I think.
Yeah, I could see that as I was thinking about it, like it's a good kind of party song. I could see like a house party, having a few Kirin Ikebans or whatever. And I liked it.
They're very cool. Again, I don't have time to speak so much, but they have all sorts of projects. They have done the music. They've been invited to create the music for some manga. They've done music for...
I could see that. I could see some... I mean, I don't watch so much manga, right? But like Dragon Ball Z, I could see some final fight going down to this. Kind of filmed in that way too, right?
Fuki actually did such a anime background with. Let me double check the name of the band. Again, I have so many notes that I don't find it in my own handwriting. Dragon Guardian, probably the most famous pure power metal Japanese band of older style. She's been playing with them as the guest vocal for an anime soundtrack. So it kind of goes in that direction. So you can hear some of that storytelling. They had a very cool, again, Japanese-inspired, tradition-inspired mini album, 3 songs. Also released 2020, in which they are dressed in kimonos and they're in a temple. Very cool interpretation of some Japanese legend of
Knight with a sword?
no sword. There was some tiger involved, but again, like all in Japanese and lots of references that escape me. I was very tempted to play that one, but just as I was doing the documentation, they released a new album, not only this Japanese-focused mini EP, but a full album called Unfinished, just in July or maybe August of 2020. So I said, definitely need to include something from this album, which is again, very, very cool, very diverse, not boring at all. I chose the song, that one song, which is in English.
All right.
For a change. I think there are not so many successful Japanese attempts at playing in English. We have had some comments on Galnerius.
Yeah, it was kind of half and half. Cry out.
I think exactly. I think one of the guys who commented like, because you were like, I don't understand if he's reading English or Japanese, and one of the guys commented like, it was actually in English. I think Fuki makes it through. I mean, you're the native English speaker, so you be the judge more than me. I do understand what she says, at least a good 90% of the time. So we're going to listen to the last of our 3 features from the Unfinished album. And the name of the song, good me, I have not...
Carry On Singing to the Sky.
Carry On Singing to the Sky. I have lots of more background to give, but first let's listen to the song that...
Lost a precious thing. That's all in your eyes.
is the last song?
I can't think of it. There's one or two songs that this reminds me of so much. The chorus, particularly the chorus. Do 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 do.
Well,
I think it's two different songs I'm thinking of, but I hear it and I'm just like thinking during this, like, what is that song? It always happens when we do these videos.
I can give you some more background. Maybe that will jog your memory.
Maybe, but I actually think, maybe because it's fresh in my head, because we recently shot the Rhapsody video. I think it might be Dawn of Victory or maybe even Emerald Sword.
It definitely has
Something,
that
the same
element.
tunes for that part. But anyways, I really enjoyed it. That was good.
It was good. I think they're amazing. And some clues about this song specifically. It is dedicated to the memory of three dots. Andre Matos of Angra and Shaman fame, the guy who so early was taken away from us. So that's why Angra has a song called Carry On. Mm-hmm. And this song is Carry On Into the Sky. So it is an homage, not necessarily musically, so they don't necessarily copy bits of this Angra song, but it's in that spirit of Carry On from Angra, which we didn't feature, so you haven't listened to it right here.
Got it. Got it. This reminds me of one of the Halloween songs. When all of them played together. The one that you picked.
Yes.
Together
Eagle
we'll
fly,
fly
yeah.
someday.
Someday.
That's the tune I was thinking of.
Eagle fly
Eagle
free.
Fly Free. That's what I'm thinking of.
Again, it's very
Am I
referential.
off the mark?
No, you're
But
right.
what's interesting is, as I was also thinking, I was trying to figure out what melody reminded me of. I was also thinking, like, this seems to be much easier to place somewhere.
Yeah.
And maybe, is it just the fact that it was English lyrics?
It's dedicated, again, it caters to this Angra fans. Again, Angra was also during Andre Matos' time, super big in Japan, much bigger than in Brazil in the earlier parts. Japan was the home of Angra for the early spots. So they loved Andre there. And so they, I read an interview with Shirin, with the main composer, in which he talks about how much he was inspired by Angra and by the composition, because, again, they're classically trained, and so was Andre Matos, so they could speak kind of the same language. But I think also this is, in a sense, and I don't want to sound too commercial because I don't think these guys are at all. They are doujin, right? They are like indie. But this song is in English, and it caters also to the English public. So
that's fine. I'm down for it.
Yeah, and it was quite okay. I think the English was much better than most other Japanese.
Yeah, but it's interesting. I'm thinking if you know, because I listen to a lot of metal in like Finnish, for example, right? And I'm kind of used to it. But Japanese is something that, I mean, sounds just so foreign for people in the West. I mean, even the difference between Chinese and Japanese, you're a lot more Chinese. Every day,
don't hear enough
every day.
Japanese.
But yeah, so I think when you introduce that element, it does sound totally different, right?
Yeah.
So maybe that kind of displaces what otherwise would be similar melodies. But I don't know. It's a very interesting sound. And what's also interesting, I think, is that when you have the violin playing, normally you associate violin with like Viking folk music for the most part. Right?
Or folk music in general.
Yeah.
Like Mago de Oz and...
Yeah, exactly. It has this folky sound, but this is not folky at all. Or maybe it's Japanese folky.
No, it is actually classical music because, again, I've been spending some time trying to get in any clues about Unlucky Morpheus. And so read another interview, one of the few ones that was available in English translation, where they said that the name of the album is unfinished, not because it's unfinished, not because Corona came and they had to stop short, but for two reasons. One is because they're so connected to their fans that an album is never finished in the recorded form.
Because they have people who are going to make spin-offs of it. Right?
Finished when you play it live and you get the response and you transform the songs in a sense to live it in the moment in the live concert. That's why they have a lot of DVD live recordings and they love to play live. So I would love to see them play. So that's one reason. The other reason, which is kind of hinting at your idea with the violin, where does it come from, is that the album is named after Schubert's Symphony No. 8. That was an unfinished symphony. So it is a little bit of an inspiration to contribute to that classical, European classic symphonic music.
Interesting.
And I think it's actually quite funny because on the channel we will have some bands that fall into symphonic metal and so on, but they're not always going to the classic symphonic music. They go to the Phantom of the Opera, which is like Andrew Lloyd Webber. Is not Verdi, you know what I mean? Whereas the Japanese go to the sources, they go to the Baroque music, as we talked before. They go to the Romantics like Schubert and Beethoven. And that's what I think the violin kind of picks up and showcases. So that was Unlucky Morpheus, Ankimo for short. Not so many details, but as much as an English-speaking person could get out of the Japanese universe. But
Is there for any people who really know a lot about Japanese metal, or any Japanese people who are watching, is there any Japanese folk metal? It sounds cliche, but to bring in the kind of like, the stuff you think of when you think of the cherry blossoms and the geishas and all that stuff.
There's a band, something that has two words, an N and Isu, like Nagami Isu or something like this. But again, it's almost impossible for me to remember but I think I've seen one band.
There has to be. So I'd be curious to hear some of that as well. Just to, what is it? Yeah. What is it outside of like Finnish folk metal? Right.
Yeah, you probably would have liked also this Japanese shrine-inspired legend that I chose against because of this latest album. So if you have more room in your playlist, check out Unlucky Morpheus. They are on Spotify. And so are we, so you can also find us there, but not exactly in the same way. Anyway, so that was it. I am pretty excited. Every time I listen to them, I get like, whoa. It makes me happy somehow.
Very cool, very cool. I liked it a lot, and always loved the violin and some killer solos. I think that was my favorite part, was the solos.
If you and again, I had a hard time to choose. There was another song that I really wanted to include, and I think you would really love it because of its guitar foremost and first. It is called Dead Leaves Rising, and it's from the B-side of the Black Pentagram EP. So we heard the most famous song, Black Pentagram. On the other side of the vinyl, you'd have Dead Leaves Rising, and it begins with a guitar dialogue between Shirin
Dueling
and Hitaya.
Dragons.
Yeah, it is amazing. It's so good. It's so very good. But we only had 3 songs, and I used my free time for the 3 songs. Let us know in the comments, what did you think? Did you know about this band before? Were you happy with the way we talked about it? Did we miss something, or did I completely misinterpret some things, which is also fully possible, given my limited access? And let us know if you have any more Japanese band suggestions. I think 1 or 2 of you guys talked about Love Bites. But any other bands, Japanese folk metal, or any other tips, just give it to us in the comments. And let us know what you thought overall.
Absolutely. But until next time.
May your sword stay sharp.
And your quests end in glory.